Mr. Bongino, you occupy that seat as the FBI's second-in-command, yet your history indicates you have turned police power into a weapon targeting immigrants and Muslims. Ilhan Omar's voice echoed across the legislative chamber, piercing and blaming, utilizing that recognizable tone she adopts whenever filming is in progress. She stood before her microphone, her designer hijab arranged flawlessly, her facial expression conveying righteous indignation. This was the moment she had waited for, the hearing she had personally demanded, the stage she intended to utilize to ruin Dan Bongino on national TV. Tonight, she went on, becoming more passionate about her topic, I intend to reveal your prejudice, your dishonesty, and your discriminatory plan for the whole world to witness. The progressive wing of the audience burst into loud cheering. They had arrived ahead of time, filling the hall, eager to observe their squad leader defeat Trump's appointee to the FBI. Lenses from C-SPAN recorded every single second, with CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News all present in attendance. This was the inquiry everybody had been anticipating, officially named the Congressional Oversight Committee on Immigration System Integrity. However, everybody understood what this event truly represented, which was a theatrical trial featuring Ilhan Omar against Dan Bongino. It was the squad's emerging icon facing off against Trump's divisive FBI deputy director. She had dedicated weeks to getting ready. While her team gathered damaging information, practiced her offensive lines, and strategized with sympathetic news outlets, she was prepared, while Dan Bongino rested at the testimony table, 50 years of age, an ex-NYPD officer and a one-time Secret Service agent. He was a Queens native to his core, dressed in a dark suit, a crisp white shirt, and a red tie, the classic federal look. Yet his face displayed an emotion Omar had not foreseen, for he was not anxious, nor was he acting defensively. He was nearly grinning, showing that faint lift at the edge of his lips. The expression a police officer adopts when a detainee is on the verge of saying something incredibly foolish. The citizens of America merit the truth, Omar insisted, that you have utilized your office to victimize at-risk groups, to bother refugees, and to enforce Trump's bigoted border protocols. You profess to value the rule of law, yet your actual goal is bias against individuals who resemble me. More cheering followed, along with the pop of camera flashes, making her feel she was winning, or at least that is what she believed. Bongino leaned closer to his microphone, and when he finally spoke, that accent from Queens resonated distinctly. It was the vibe of a blue-collar New York patrolman, not the refined Washington rhetoric everyone had anticipated. Congresswoman, he stated, his tone tranquil but possessing command, before we discuss my history, let us discuss your history. Let us discuss deception regarding immigration. Let us discuss deception regarding marriage. Let us discuss lying under oath. Let us discuss deception regarding taxes. And let us discuss infractions concerning campaign finance laws. He hesitated, allowing the words to penetrate. Because I have served as a law enforcement officer for 20 years. With 4 years in the NYPD and 12 years in the Secret Service, I have looked into scam allegations, and I have apprehended felons. I recognize deceit when I observe it, he added, taking another break as the chamber fell silent. Omar's grin had turned rigid, and as for you, Congresswoman, Bongino leaned in, his gaze fixed upon hers. You are perpetrating numerous federal offenses, and we intend to discuss every single one of them right here and right now on national broadcast. He retrieved a bulky binder, sorted with markers, with papers clearly viewable. You desired to speak about the honesty of the immigration framework, which is excellent. Let us begin with the manner in which you cheated the immigration system by entering into wedlock with your brother. The hall rupted in noise, while Omar's countenance shifted from virtuous assurance to paralyzed stun in a split second. Her aides were anxiously glancing at one another, and her lawyers were leaning in closer. This was not the screenplay, and this was not the way this event was intended to unfold. "You wish to discuss the integrity of immigration procedures," Bongino said again, getting comfortable in his seat with his police instincts fully engaged. "Fine. Let us discuss your nuptials to Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi, a citizen of Britain who, based on significant proof, is your biological sibling." He unsealed the file and withdrew the initial batch of records. "Now, I have handled deception cases, Secret Service financial offenses, theft of identity, and sham marriages. I have witnessed everything. And regarding this specific case," he shook his head, "this is a classic example. Allow me to guide you through how I established that you wed your brother to perpetrate immigration swindles." Omar attempted to cut in, claiming these are revolting, bigoted plots. "Paperwork is not bigoted, Congresswoman." Bongino's tone remained steady, not furious, just a factual police tone. "Proof is not bigoted, and reality is not bigoted, so let us examine the reality." He displayed the initial paper, noting that, in 2009 you lawfully wed Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi. That fact is not being debated, as you acknowledged it, with a marriage license submitted in Hennepin County, Minnesota. In August of 2009, you were roughly 26 or 27 years of age. He did not pause for a response, continuing that this is where the situation becomes intriguing. "Regarding Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi, let us discuss his identity. I retrieved his academic transcripts from the United Kingdom, revealing he went to secondary school there prior to arriving in the United States." Bongino displayed authoritative papers bearing the stamps of the British government. These UK scholastic files list his father's name as Noor Saeed Elmi, identifying that man as his parent. "Now, let us examine your asylum request forms from 1995, from the time your family immigrated to America." He lifted another paper and placed them adjacent to each other. "The father's name is Noor Saeed Elmi, which is the identical name, the exact same name with the same spelling. Noor Saeed Elmi," he stated, glancing at the panel, then at the recording devices, and finally at Omar. "Now, I am merely a police officer from Queens, and I lack prestigious certifications in mathematics. However, in the place I originate from, when two individuals identify the identical man as their dad, that renders them siblings. They are brother and sister. They are family." A person in the audience inhaled sharply, while camera shutters snapped furiously. "Yet that represents merely a single fragment of proof," Bongino went on, his voice stable as he constructed the argument bit by bit. "Allow me to provide you with additional material, specifically from social media and Instagram." He withdrew printed copies and displayed them, showing Ahmed Elmi's Instagram profile. This was prior to you erasing everything, before you attempted to wipe the web clean. However, you know the saying, which is that the internet remains eternally. "These are preserved entries," he began reciting, referring to a post dating back to 2013. "Ahmed Elmi uploads a picture featuring your daughter, the daughter from your earlier connection with Ahmed Hirsi. In the description, he refers to her as his niece, not as his stepdaughter, but as his niece." Bongino raised his eyes, noting that if he were simply your spouse, she would be his stepchild. That is the way matrimony functions, yet he refers to her as his niece. That is a fascinating selection of words because that is what she would be if he were your sibling. Not your spouse, but your brother. Omar was moving her head in denial, yet she remained silent while her attorneys whispered frantically. "However, hold on," Bongino stated, getting more energized now, because there is additional information. Allow me to inform you regarding an electronic mail obtained via a Freedom of Information Act petition from Ahmed Elmi to you. Regarding 2011, do you wish to hear what it contains? He extracted the email and read it deliberately and distinctly. Quote, "Thanks for assisting me in obtaining documents, sister, and I will ensure I reimburse you when I arrive in London." Unquote. Quietness, absolute quietness, filled the room. "Sister." Bongino said the word again, allowing it to linger in the air. Not wife, but sister. He addressed you as sister in a message concerning helping him acquire documents, specifically immigration documents. That is what this situation concerned, as you wed your sibling to assist him in gaining U.S. nationality. At the very least, it was for student visa standing, in-state tuition perks, and a simpler route to permanent residency. He was not finished, adding that this is still not the entirety of the proof. I possess 6 affidavits, which are sworn declarations under threat of perjury from individuals within the Minneapolis Somali population. These are individuals who were acquainted with your kin, people who knew you in Somalia prior to your escape. Do you know what they all assert? He lifted the pile of papers, stating they all claim Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi is your brother. All 6, acting autonomously and under oath, recognize him as your sibling. One among them, Mrs. Fadumo Hassan, was acquainted with your household before the civil conflict. She is extremely precise and highly specific, stating that Ahmed Elmi is your biological brother. There is no uncertainty and no bewilderment. Bongino arranged his sheets and gazed straight at Omar. Now let us discuss the chronology, because this is the point where the deception becomes transparent. In 2002, you participated in an Islamic wedding ritual with Ahmed Hersi, which was not legal, but merely religious. You produced 2 offspring with him in 2006 and 2008. 2 children, he tallied on his digits. In 2008, you split from Hirsi through a religious divorce, which was not legal since you were never lawfully wed. In 2009, immediately after, you lawfully married Ahmed Elmi, the man sharing the same father as you, your brother. However, here is the truly fascinating portion regarding the years 2009 through 2011. You, Ahmed Hirsi, and Ahmed Elmi all resided at the identical location. All 3 of you were in a Columbia Heights, Minnesota apartment complex in the very same unit. He produced rental contracts, utility invoices, and voter enrollment files showing all 3 names at one address. You were dwelling with the father of your kids and your lawful spouse, who coincidentally is your brother. This occurred simultaneously, beneath the same ceiling. Someone in the crowd uttered, "What?" loudly enough to be audible. In 2009, right after wedding you, Ahmed Elmi registered at North Dakota State University, which is your former school. Do you know what matrimony to a U.S. national provides you? It grants in-state tuition, which is substantially less expensive than out-of-state or international prices. It also renders you qualified for U.S. student assistance initiatives and provides legal standing to remain in the nation. Bongino leaned in closer. He finished his studies in 2012, subsequently relocated to Minneapolis, and was later removed from government housing. Then he returned to the UK, which is where he resides presently. The objective was achieved, as he obtained his diploma and secured his perks. So the game ended. He extracted one last paper, declaring this to be the definitive proof. It is your divorce application from 2017, which you signed under the threat of perjury. That signifies that being untruthful on it constitutes a felony offense. In that submission, you asserted, and I quote, "I have had no communication with Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi since June 2011. He placed that paper down and produced photographs taken in London in 2015. This was 4 years after you alleged you had no interaction. These are preserved Instagram pictures of you and Ahmed Elmi together in London, clearly showing you and clearly showing him. You are clearly together, he said, looking at Omar. That constitutes perjury, Congresswoman, as you lied while under oath in a judicial record. That is a felony, distinct from the marriage deception and distinct from the immigration deception. It is its own federal offense. Omar recovered her voice, which was trembling and defensive, claiming this is all removed from context. She argued these are disproven plot theories from bigoted online writers. Congresswoman, nothing I have just displayed has been disproven. British government files revealing the father's name have not been disproven. Your asylum petition revealing the identical father's name has not been disproven. The email addressing you as sister has not been disproven. 6 sworn declarations have not been disproven, and photos refuting your sworn declaration have not been disproven. He hesitated, asking if she knew what would disprove all of this. It is one uncomplicated thing, which is a DNA test. The atmosphere in the room tightened. If Ahmed Elmi is not your sibling, a DNA analysis confirms it. It is simple, effortless, and takes 1 hour. Swab your cheek, swab his cheek, and the lab findings return, saying not related. The narrative ends. You are cleared, and everyone who blamed you appears to be an idiot. He opened his hands wide. The Daily Mail asked you to undergo a DNA test in 2019, but you declined. Numerous other news agencies asked for it, and you declined. Members of Congress asked for it, and you declined. Why? He asked, leaning backwards. I will inform you why, because you understand what that analysis would reveal. You are aware Ahmed Elmi is your brother, and you cannot hazard that test. It would demonstrate beyond any suspicion that you perpetrated federal immigration fraud. Omar was shaking her head, with tears gathering. I will not honor these bigoted assaults. Bigoted, Bongino's voice turned frigid, with the street officer tone emerging. Let me inform you of something, Congresswoman. I served in the 75th Precinct in East New York, Brooklyn. You know what that represents, as it is one of the most perilous districts in New York City. I interacted with every ethnicity, every faith, and every history. I apprehended individuals of every complexion and every belief system. Do you know what I valued? I valued proof, crime, and deception. He gestured at his papers. This is not concerning your race, this is not concerning your faith, and this is not concerning you being an immigrant. This is concerning federal offenses, specifically multiple federal offenses. Immigration deception is a federal crime, punishable by up to 5 years in jail and up to a $250,000 penalty. And for immigrants who perpetrate immigration deception, there is deportation. He allowed that thought to resonate. You arrived in this nation as a refugee, and this nation preserved your life. It preserved your family, provided you chances, citizenship, and ultimately a position in Congress. You reciprocated by cheating the immigration structure, by manipulating it. You did this by wedding your brother to assist him in acquiring benefits to which he had no right. His voice elevated slightly. Do you realize what that accomplishes? It renders every valid refugee suspicious. It causes people to question the system. It causes Americans who are already doubtful regarding immigration to say, see, they perpetrate fraud. You harm every truthful refugee and every truthful immigrant because you could not adhere to the regulations. He shut that portion of his binder. Marriage deception, immigration deception, and perjury constitute 3 federal felonies right there. And we are merely commencing, as we have not even discussed your taxes yet. Omar sat paralyzed. Her attorneys were scribbling desperately, and her aides were on their telephones. The progressive portion of the audience had gone entirely quiet. There was no more cheering, no more shouting, only astonishment. Bongino extracted a fresh segment from his file. "Let us discuss your tax filings, Congresswoman. Do you know what I discovered while working financial scam cases in the Secret Service?" Bongino started arranging his next group of papers. Follow the currency. Always follow the currency. Money does not prevaricate. People prevaricate. However, banking records, tax filings, and financial papers narrate the truth. He lifted a new collection of sheets. Regarding 2014 and 2015, these are your federal tax forms filed jointly. Do you know what married filing jointly implies, Congresswoman? It implies you are submitting taxes as a wedded pair with your spouse, your lawful husband or wife. He placed the returns down, with Omar's autograph viewable even from afar. In 2014, you submitted joint tax forms with Ahmed Abdisalan Hirsi, the father of your kids. He is the man you shared a religious ritual with back in 2002. In 2015, it was the same situation. Joint returns with Ahmed Hirsi. Bongino raised his gaze to her. That is a problem, a large problem. You were lawfully wed to Ahmed Elmi, not Ahmed Hirsi. Elmi is your brother, and the marriage remained valid. You did not lawfully divorce him until 2017. He withdrew the marriage license and the divorce submission date, placing them adjacent to each other. Therefore, in 2014 and 2015, you submitted joint tax forms with a man to whom you were not lawfully wed. You did this while being lawfully wed to a separate man entirely. That constitutes tax fraud, Congresswoman. He read from a legal text, citing Title 26 of the United States Code, Section 7206. This covers making false declarations on tax forms, specifically subsection 1. Quote, any person who willfully makes and subscribes any return, statement, or other document which contains or is verified by a written declaration that it is made under the penalties of perjury, and which he does not believe to be true and correct as to every material matter shall be guilty of a felony, unquote. He set it down. The penalty is up to 3 years in jail, up to $100,000 in fines, plus the taxes due, plus penalties, plus interest. Omar attempted to reply, saying, I rectified those submissions. When did you rectify them? When you were apprehended, Bongino concluded for her. You rectified them after the Minnesota Campaign Finance and Public Disclosure Board began investigating you. This was after reporters began posing inquiries and after the narrative became public, not before. After, he said, leaning closer, rectifying deception after you are caught does not render it not deception. It simply renders it admitted deception. You signed those tax forms under the threat of perjury. Observe your autograph right there. You certified that everything on those returns was accurate and correct. He pointed at the papers. However, it was not accurate. You claimed to be wed to Ahmed Hirsi, but you were not. You were wed to Ahmed Elmi. That is material data. That is not a minor error, and that is not a technicality. That is fraud. But perhaps, Bongino continued, his voice took on a sarcastic sharpness, perhaps you simply forgot you were wed to your sibling. Maybe it slipped your memory. Therefore, let us discuss something where you definitely did not forget. Let us discuss perjury. He produced a court record with the official stamp visible. Dated August 2nd, 2017, it is a divorce submission in Hennepin County District Court. You are petitioning to divorce Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi, your brother. I mean your husband. Wait, which one is it? He thumbed through the sheets. In this submission, you make several declarations under oath, under threat of perjury. Do you know what perjury is, Congresswoman? It is lying under oath. It is a felony, a federal crime, a state crime, and a severe crime. He located the pertinent section on page 3, the application for service by alternate means. This is where you allege you cannot locate Ahmed Elmi to serve him divorce papers. You state, and again this is under threat of perjury, quote, I have had no contact with Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi since June 2011, unquote. He placed the paper down meticulously. June 2011 is what you swore under oath in a legal submission. Your signature is right there. It is directly above the line that reads, I declare, under penalty of perjury, that everything I have stated in this document is true and correct. He paused, allowing the anxiety to accumulate. Now, I have been a police officer for 20 years. I have testified in court more times than I can tally. I understand what perjury signifies. It means if you lie on that paper, you go to jail. That is why people regard it seriously. That is why you consider twice before you sign it. He extracted a manila envelope and opened it slowly and theatrically. June 2015, London, England. These are Instagram posts, archived screenshots, timestamps, and geotags, the entire package. He arranged the photographs showing you and Ahmed Elmi together in London. They are clear pictures, showing your face and his face together. This was 4 years after you alleged you had no interaction with him. He pointed at the pictures. That is you, correct? Designer hijab and distinctive features, that is you. And that is Ahmed Elmi, the identical person from all the other photos we possess. It is the same person from the marriage license photo. It is him. Bongino looked at Omar, whose face had turned pallid. So, let me understand this correctly. In June 2011, you supposedly ceased all communication with your brother husband. Yet in 2015, you are photographed with him in London. Then, in 2017, you file legal papers claiming you had not seen him since 2011. He tapped the papers. That is perjury. Clear, simple, and undeniable perjury. You lied under oath in a court submission regarding material facts. That is a felony, a state felony, and likely federal too. Omar's voice emerged sounding desperate, saying the photos do not prove. Do not prove what? Bongino interrupted. Do not prove you were together? They do. Do not prove you had contact? They do. Do not prove you lied in your divorce submission? They do. He organized his papers. Let me tell you something I learned in investigations. When somebody lies about one thing, you start doubting everything they say. When somebody commits one offense, you start searching for others. And Congresswoman, you have a pattern here. He counted on his digits. Marriage fraud, check. Immigration fraud, check. Tax fraud, check. Perjury, check. That is 4 federal felonies, 4 separate crimes, all documented and all provable. His voice became quieter and more intense. I protected presidents for 12 years. George W. Bush and Barack Obama were 2 presidents I did not vote for, but I protected them because that was my employment. I followed the rules. Every background check, every security clearance, and every protocol by the book. He pointed at her. You are in Congress, you enact laws, and you are supposed to adhere to them, too. But you do not, as you commit crimes and then call anyone who investigates you a racist. Well, I have news for you. I am a cop, and I investigate crimes, for that is what cops do. And when the proof is this robust, we make arrests. He leaned back. Now, I cannot arrest you, as I am not that type of law enforcement anymore. But the evidence is public, it is documented, and it is on the record. Everyone watching this knows exactly what you did. Omar was weeping now. Her mascara was running, and her voice was cracking. This is a witch hunt, and you are persecuting me because you violated the law, Bongino finished. He was not shouting, not angry, just stating facts. Multiple laws, multiple times, multiple felonies. He extracted his next section. And speaking of violating the law, let us discuss your campaign finances. Let us discuss Tim Minette. Let us discuss how you utilized campaign funds to pay for your illicit relationship. Bongino withdrew a thick pile of documents. Federal Election Commission submissions, campaign finance reports, and financial records. This section was laden with evidence. Tim Minette, he began. Political consultant, married man, ran a firm called E Street Group. Do you know how I know all this? Because it is public record. FEC filings are public, and everyone can view them. He spread out the filings. In 2018, your campaign starts paying E Street Group. For what? Consulting services, digital consulting, and travel expenses. Do you know how much? He extracted a calculator, an actual physical calculator, and held it up. Let us tally it up. In 2018, approximately $195. In 2019's, approximately $180,000. The total through 2019 is $370,000. This went to one consulting firm, Tim Minette's firm. He placed the calculator down. Now, I am not claiming consulting is inherently incorrect. Campaigns employ consultants, and that is normal. But here is what is not normal. Having an affair with your consultant while paying him massive amounts of campaign money. Omar tried to interrupt regarding her personal relationships. Stop, Bongino said sharply. Halt right there. This is not personal when campaign funds are involved. When donor money is involved, and when federal election law is involved, then it is very much public business. He produced a court document. Beth Minette, Tim Minette's wife, filed for divorce in April 2019. Do you know what she stated in her divorce submission? Let me read directly from the court documents. He located the pertinent section. Quote, my husband Tim Minette told me in April 2019 that he was having an affair with Ilhan Omar. He informed me that he was in love with the congresswoman and that he wanted to dissolve our marriage. Unquote. Bongino looked up. That is under oath in a legal submission. Beth Minette is swearing that her husband confessed to having an affair with you. This occurred while you were both married to other people. It happened while his firm was receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from your campaign. He extracted more documents, but it improves. Beth Minette gave a deposition, which is sworn testimony. In that deposition, she describes conversations with her husband about the affair, and she says something very interesting. He found the quote. She testified that Tim told her, quote, do not worry about money. Ilhan's campaign is covering everything, unquote. The room went completely silent. That statement hung in the air like an explosive. Ilhan's campaign is covering everything, Bongino repeated slowly. Campaign funds, donor money, money from working people who believed in you and who donated to elect you. They thought their money would go toward campaign activities. He produced specific FEC filings. Let us look at some of these expenses. March 2019, travel expenses for E Street Group, $15,000 for a trip to California. Campaign event, perhaps. Or maybe a romantic getaway. He flipped pages. April 2019, The same month, Beth Minot says the affair was admitted. More travel expenses? More consulting fees. May 2019, June 2019, July 2019. Every single month, huge payments. He extracted credit card records and campaign credit card statements. Dinners, hotels, flights, all charged to the campaign. All while you were having an affair. All while both of you were married to other people. Bongino's voice became harder. Do you know what is particularly disgusting about this? Beth Minot was not just your consultant's wife. She worked in politics, too. She had a career. She had a life. You destroyed her marriage. You broke up a family. And you used campaign funds to do it. Omar was shaking her head, tears streaming. This is unfair. This is unfair. Bongino's Queen's accent became thicker. The street cop was coming out. You want to talk about unfair? Let me tell you what is unfair. Working people donating $20, $50, $100 because they believe in you, because they think you are fighting for them, and you take that money and use it to fund your affair. He slammed the documents down, not violently, just emphatically. That is unfair. That is theft. That is fraud. That is a violation of federal campaign finance law. He withdrew another section. But wait, there is more. March 2020, you marry Tim Minot. The affair is public now, everyone knows. Beth Minot's divorce is finalized. You divorce Ahmed Hirsi. You marry Tim. He produced post-2020 FEC filings. Think the payments stopped? Think you stopped funneling money to your now husband? No, they increased. He started reading amounts. 2020. $1.1 million. More than triple the previous years combined. 2021. Another million plus. You are now paying your husband's consulting firm massive amounts of campaign money. Bongino looked at the committee and at the cameras. Think about this. You marry the guy, he is now your husband, and you continue paying his company. Your campaign donors are now funding your household and your family income. That is a textbook conflict of interest. That is potentially illegal coordination between candidate and consultant. That is laundering campaign funds into personal income. He produced FEC regulations and read them aloud. Federal election law prohibits using campaign funds for personal use. Personal use includes payments to family members beyond fair market value. It includes payments that primarily benefit the candidate personally rather than the campaign. He set the regulations down. You are paying your husband over $1 million a year for consulting. Does that seem like fair market value? Or does that seem like you are using campaign money to support your household? Omar tried again. The FEC reviewed. The FEC is investigating, Bongino corrected. Multiple ethics complaints have been filed. The investigation is ongoing, and everyone watching this can see what you did. His voice became quiet and intense. I have seen corruption in my 20 years. I have seen politicians take bribes. I have seen lobbyists buy access. I have seen all kinds of financial crimes. But this is cruder than most of it. He gestured at the pile of documents. You had an affair, used campaign money to fund it, and destroyed a marriage. Then you married the guy and kept funneling donor money to him. That is not consulting. That is not legitimate business. That is personal enrichment. That is fraud. He leaned forward one final time. And the worst part is, you did all this while claiming to fight for working people, while claiming to represent the struggling, the poor, the vulnerable. They donated to you, and you used their money to fund your affair and then support your wealthy husband. He closed that section of his folder. Marriage fraud, tax fraud, perjury, campaign finance fraud. How many felonies is that? I have lost count. But we are not done, because there is something even more fundamental we need to discuss. He produced his next section. Let us discuss what you did to the refugee system that saved your life. Bongino's tone shifted, becoming less cop and more personal. This was emotional for him. You came to this country as a refugee, he began. His voice was softer now. In 1995, you were 12 or 13 years old. Your family fled Somalia during the Civil War, a terrible situation. You spent 4 years in a refugee camp in Kenya, the Dadaab refugee camp. I have seen photos, I have read about it. Horrific conditions. He produced documents. Then America accepted you and your family with refugee status. You came to Minnesota, got settled, and got help. You got opportunities, learned English, and went to school at North Dakota State University, where you got your degree. He looked at Omar. In 2000, at age 17 or 18, you became a United States citizen. Naturalized, full citizen, all rights, all privileges. This country welcomed you, protected you, gave you everything. He paused. And 19 years later, you are in Congress, refugee to Congresswoman. That is the American dream, right? That is proof the system works. Proof that America welcomes people who need help. Proof that opportunity exists here. His voice hardened. But you did not just benefit from the system. You exploited it. You defrauded it. You betrayed it. He produced the marriage fraud evidence again. You married your brother to gain immigration benefits and to get him benefits, to help him circumvent the system. The same system that saved your life. You turned around and defrauded it. Bongino stood up and walked a few steps. Street cop lecture mode. Do you know what that does? Do you know what happens when a refugee commits immigration fraud? It makes every refugee suspect. Every legitimate asylum seeker gets questioned harder and gets investigated more thoroughly. It gets their claims doubted. He pointed at her. You proved the skeptics right. Everyone who says refugees commit fraud, you proved them right. Everyone who says we need stricter vetting, you proved them right. Everyone who says immigrants game the system, you proved them right. His voice rose. I have been protecting people for 20 years. NYPD, Secret Service, FBI. I have worked with immigrants from every country, from every background. Most of them are honest, law-abiding, hardworking. They follow the rules. They are grateful for the opportunity. They contribute. He gestured broadly. And then there is you. You come here as a refugee, get every advantage, every opportunity, and you commit federal crimes multiple times, and you hide behind identity politics when anyone questions you. Omar tried to speak. You do not understand, man, what it is like. Do not understand. Bongino's voice became sharp. Do not understand what? Do not understand being an immigrant. My grandparents were immigrants. Italian, came through Ellis Island, worked their whole lives, followed every rule, never asked for handouts, built a life. He pointed at himself. I grew up in Queens, working-class neighborhood. My father was a city worker. My mother was a secretary. Nobody handed me anything. I worked for everything. Became a cop, dangerous streets, East New York, Brooklyn, the 75th precinct. You know what that neighborhood was like in the 90s? War zone. His voice was passionate now, real. I worked my way up. NYPD to Secret Service. Protected presidents. Earned my way. And I followed every single rule, every background check, every security clearance, every protocol. Because that is what you do in this country. You follow the rules. He turned back to Omar. You did not follow the rules. You broke them repeatedly, deliberately. And you claim anyone who calls you out is attacking you because of your identity. He walked back to the table and sat down, looked directly at her. This is not about you being Muslim. This is not about you being black. This is not about you being an immigrant. This is not about you being a woman. He tapped the documents. This is about federal crimes, about fraud, about lying, about corruption, about betraying the system that saved your life. His voice became quieter and more intense. You lecture Americans about compassion, about welcoming refugees, about opening doors, and I actually agree with some of that. I think we should help people fleeing war, fleeing persecution, fleeing violence. He leaned forward. But we cannot help people if we cannot trust the system. And we cannot trust the system when people like you commit fraud, when you game it, when you exploit it for personal benefit. He produced one final document. You want to know. What would clear all this up? What would prove your innocence? What would shut down every accusation? He held it up. DNA test. Simple, easy, quick. Proves Ahmed Elmi is not your brother. Vindicates you completely. Makes me look like an idiot. Makes everyone who accused you look like conspiracy theorists. He set it down. But you will not take it. Multiple outlets requested it. You refused multiple times. Why? He stared at her. Because you know what it would show. You know he is your brother. You know the test would prove you committed immigration fraud. And you cannot risk that. Omar was crying openly now, voice breaking. I do not have to prove anything to you. You do not have to prove anything to me, Bongino agreed, but you should want to prove it to America. You should want to clear your name. Unless you cannot. Unless the accusations are true. He organized his papers. Refugee to Congresswoman. Could have been an inspiration. Could have shown that the system works. That America welcomes those in need. That opportunity exists. He looked at her with something like disappointment. Instead, you proved that some people will exploit any system, will break any rule, will commit any fraud, and will call anyone who questions them a bigot. He produced his next section. But let us get back to specifics because I want to try something. I want to ask you some very simple questions, and I want you to answer them yes or no. Can you do that, Congresswoman? Bongino settled back in his chair. Interrogation mode. This was what he trained for. Decades of questioning suspects. Decades of spotting lies. This was his element. Internal investigations, he began, voice conversational. Innocent people answer questions. They are eager to clear their names. They cooperate. They provide evidence. They want the truth to come out. He paused. Guilty people, they deflect. They attack the questioner. They claim persecution. They refuse to answer. They hide behind technicalities. He looked at Omar. Every single question I have asked you today, you have deflected. You have attacked me. You have claimed this is racist, Islamophobic, a witch hunt, but you have not answered the questions. He produced a legal pad. Fresh page, pen ready. So let us try this. Simple questions. Yes or no answers. That is it. Just answer the questions. He clicked his pen. Question 1. Is Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi your brother? Yes or no? Omar looked at her lawyers. They whispered. She turned back. These allegations are baseless conspiracy theories that have been— Yes or no? Bongino interrupted. Simple question. Is he your brother? I have already addressed this in previous statements. That is not a yes or no. Is Ahmed Nursaid Elmi your brother? Omar's jaw clenched. I refuse to dignify. Refusal to answer? Bongino said, writing it down. Got it? Noted. Moving on? He looked up. Question 2. Did you file joint tax returns with Ahmed Hirsi in 2014 and 2015 while legally married to Ahmed Elmi? Omar consulted with her lawyers again. I corrected those filings. Through the proper. That is a yes, Bongino said, writing. You did file joint returns with someone you were not married to while married to someone else. Correct. The filings were amended. Yes or no? Did you file those returns, as I described? Silence. Omar looked trapped. Silence noted, Bongino said. I will take that as a yes since you did not deny it. Next question. He looked up. Question 3. In your 2017 divorce filing, did you state under penalty of perjury that you had no contact with Ahmed Elmi since June 2011? Omar's voice came out defensive. Legal documents have specific. Yes or no? Did you make that statement in that filing? Yes, but— Yes, thank you. First straight answer. Bongino wrote it down. Question 4. Were you photographed with Ahmed Elmi in London in 2015? Omar shook her head. Those photos do not prove. Were you photographed with him in 2015? 4 years after you claimed you had no contact. Her lawyers whispered urgently. She did not answer. Refusal to answer? Bongino noted. Interesting, he continued. Question 5. Did your campaign pay Tim Manette's company approximately $370,000 between 2018 and 2019? Campaign expenditures are all properly disclosed. That is a yes. $370,000. Correct? The FEC filings show yes. Got it. He wrote it down. Question 6. Were you having an affair with Tim Manette during this time period? Omar's face went red. My personal life. Beth Minette testified under oath that you were in her divorce filing. Is her testimony false? I am not going to discuss my personal. Refusal to answer, Bongino said. But we have testimony under oath from his ex-wife, so I will note that as confirmed by third-party witness. He looked up again. Question 7. After you married Tim Minette in 2020, did your campaign continue paying his company? And did those payments increase to over $1 million? Consulting fees are determined by yes or no. Did payments increase after marriage? The services provided were. Yes or no? Silence. I will check the FEC filings myself, Bongino said. They are public. And yes, they increased substantially. He set his pen down, looked at the legal pad, looked at the committee, looked at Omar. 7 questions, 7 deflections. Not one straight answer, not one honest response. He stood up. You know what I learned. Interrogating suspects for 20 years. This right here. He pointed at her. This is what guilt looks like. This is how criminals respond when cornered with evidence. He walked a few steps. Innocent people say, no, that is not true. And here is proof. They provide evidence. They welcome investigation. They clear their name. He turned back. You attack me. You claim racism. You refuse to answer. You hide behind your identity. You use your religion as a shield. You claim victimhood. His voice became hard. But the evidence does not care about your feelings. Documents do not care about your identity. Facts do not care about political correctness. He pointed at his folder. I have UK government documents, US government documents, court filings, tax returns, FEC filings, sworn testimony, photos, emails, witnesses. He spread his hands. What do you have? Accusations of racism, claims of conspiracy theories, refusal to answer questions, refusal to take a DNA test. He walked back to his seat. In my 20 years in law enforcement, I have never seen an innocent person refuse a DNA test that would prove their innocence. Never. Not once. Innocent people take that test immediately. He sat down, looked directly at her. You will not take it because you cannot, because it would prove you married your brother, and that would end your career, end your freedom, possibly end your citizenship. Omar was sobbing now, makeup ruined, voice barely working. This is harassment. This is persecution. I do not have to sit here, and you do not have to sit here, Bongino agreed. You can leave, walk out, storm off, claim victimhood. That is what guilty people do. He organized his papers, but everyone watching this knows the truth. You committed federal crimes, multiple felonies, and you are hiding behind identity politics because you cannot defend yourself with facts. He produced his final section. But let me address one more thing, because people watching are probably wondering, if you are so guilty, if the evidence is so strong, why have you not been charged? Why have you not been arrested? Why are you not in prison? He held up the papers. Let me explain why you are probably going to get away with it. Bongino's tone changed again. Bitter, frustrated. This was personal. You are sitting there wondering, if I am so guilty, why am I not in handcuffs? Good question. Let me answer it. He produced a timeline. 2016. Conservative media starts investigating your marriages. Questions arise. Evidence accumulates. U.S. Attorney for Minnesota. Obama appointee Andy Lugar. He issues a letter saying they are not investigating. Convenient. He moved down the timeline. Trump takes office. CFI, new administration, new prosecutors. Should investigate, right? Should look at all this evidence. They do not. Because you are a rising progressive star. You are a squad member. You check every diversity box. Prosecuting you would be political suicide. He tapped the timeline. 2018. You are elected to Congress. Now, you are protected by even more political considerations. Now, you are a member of Congress. Going after you looks like political persecution. Even though the evidence is overwhelming. He produced statutes. But here is the real problem. Statute of limitations. Marriage fraud from 2009. We are at 15 or 16 years now. Some statutes of limitations are 15 years. Might be too late. Tax fraud from 2014 to 2015. 6 years typically. Could be expired. He read from legal documents. Federal marriage fraud statute. Up to 5 years prison. But must be prosecuted within a certain time frame. Immigration fraud. Similar issues. Perjury from 2017. That is more recent. Still potentially prosecutable. He set the papers down. But here is the political reality. You are a minority woman. Muslim, immigrant, progressive Democrat, squad member. Going after you would be called racist, Islamophobic, sexist, political persecution. His voice became hard with frustration. Prosecutors are scared. They do not want the media backlash. They do not want to be accused of targeting you because of your identity. So they do nothing. They let it slide. They hope it goes away. He looked at the committee and at the cameras. That is the system we have. Different rules for different people. If you are politically protected, if you check the right boxes, if you have the right support, you can commit federal crimes and face no consequences. He pointed at her. You should be in prison, or at minimum facing serious charges. Marriage fraud, immigration fraud, tax fraud, perjury, campaign finance violations. That is multiple felonies. He produced recent news articles, but you know what? It might not be over. Tom Homan, Border Czar, Trump administration. He is pulling your files, looking at what can still be prosecuted. FBI under new leadership. He smiled slightly. My leadership. We are reviewing everything. He read from a recent statement. Tom Homan, quote, we are looking at the evidence, some statute of limitations issues, but we are examining what legal options remain. That is not over, Congresswoman. That investigation is active. He produced more documents. And there is another possibility people do not talk about. If you committed immigration fraud, if you married your brother to get him citizenship or benefits, that could affect your citizenship. He read from immigration law. Citizenship obtained through fraud or misrepresentation can be revoked. Denaturalization. It is rare, but it happens. If it is proven you committed immigration fraud, even years ago, even decades ago, they can revoke your citizenship. He looked up. And once citizenship is revoked, deportation becomes possible. Back to Somalia. Back to where you came from. That is the law. Omar's eyes went wide, fear visible now. Do not like that, Bongino asked. Do not want to face those consequences. Then you should have followed the rules, should have been grateful for the opportunity you were given, instead of defrauding the system. He organized his papers one final time. But realistically, you are probably going to get away with it. Political protection, media shield, identity politics armor. Prosecutors too scared to act. Statute of limitations expired on some crimes. He looked directly at her. But make no mistake. Everyone knows what you did. The evidence is public. It is documented. It is irrefutable. And history will record it. He stood up. I spent 20 years in law enforcement. NYPD, Secret Service, FBI. I followed the rules, played by the book. I have seen criminals get away with crimes because they had the right connections, the right political protection, the right identity. He pointed at her. You are one of them. You committed federal crimes multiple times, and you are hiding behind identity politics, calling anyone who investigates you a racist, playing the victim while you are actually the criminal. His voice rose with passion. But I will tell you something. The American people are not stupid. They see through it. They know what you did. They know you married your brother. They know you committed tax fraud. They know you lied under oath. They know you funneled campaign money to your affair partner, then husband. He gestured broadly. They know you came here as a refugee and repaid America by defrauding the immigration system. They know you are corrupt. They know you are a criminal. And one day when you are gone from Congress, when your political career is over, all anyone will remember is that Ilhan Omar committed federal crimes and got away with it because the system was too broken to prosecute her. He sat back down. Calm now. The anger burned out. That is the truth. That is the reality. You win for now. You get away with it for now. But everyone knows, and history will judge you. He closed his folder. Final. I am done, Madam Chairwoman. I have presented the evidence. The American people can judge for themselves. The hearing room erupted the moment Bongino finished. Media scrambling, staffers on phones, committee members arguing, security trying to maintain order. Omar did not say another word. Her lawyers flanked her. They rushed her out of the room, through a side door, away from cameras, away from reporters. But you cannot escape the internet. Within minutes, clips were everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, every platform. Ilhan Omar exposed, trending worldwide in under an hour. Brother marriage, tax fraud, campaign finance fraud. All trending, all viral. C-SPAN ratings shattered records. The hearing footage replayed continuously on every news channel. Conservative media went 24/7 coverage. Mainstream media could not ignore it anymore. Even progressive outlets struggled to defend her. "Is concerning," said one MSNBC host, clearly uncomfortable. "These allegations deserve serious investigation." CN tried harder to defend her. Bongino's attacks were aggressive and potentially inappropriate, but even they had to acknowledge the documents, the evidence, the refusal to answer questions. Fox News ran victory laps. Bongino destroys Omar with facts. Squad member exposed for multiple felonies. The coverage was relentless. By the next morning, Democrats were in full panic mode. Nancy Pelosi issued a careful statement. "We take these allegations seriously and support thorough investigation through appropriate channels." Translation: we are distancing ourselves. Chuck Schumer said nothing. Absolutely nothing. His office declined comment. Squad members tried to support her. AOC tweeted, "This is a coordinated attack on a woman of color in Congress. We stand with Ilhan." But even that got ratioed. Thousands of comments. What about the evidence? Is evidence racist? Address the facts, not identity. Rashida Tlaib defended her. Ayanna Pressley defended her. But their voices were drowned out by the sheer volume of evidence. Now public documents everywhere. People sharing photos, timelines, analyses. Within 3 days, a petition appeared. Ahmed Hassan started it. A refugee advocate in Minneapolis. Came to America legally from Somalia. Waited years in the system. Followed every rule. He watched the hearing, saw the evidence, and he was furious. "I came here legally," he told reporters outside his community center. "I waited. I followed the rules. I was vetted. Background checks, interviews, years of waiting. And she commits fraud. She makes it harder for every legitimate refugee." His petition: investigate Ilhan Omar for immigration fraud. The text was simple. "We, the undersigned, demand that the FBI, DOJ, and relevant authorities fully investigate Representative Ilhan Omar for immigration fraud, tax fraud, perjury, and campaign finance violations. The evidence presented in the congressional hearing demands action. No one is above the law." First day, 50,000 signatures. Week 1, 200,000. Week 2, 500,000. Ahmed did interviews everywhere. CNN, Fox, MSNBC. His story was powerful. Legal refugee, followed the rules, advocating for accountability. "She betrayed the system that saved her life," he said on Anderson Cooper. "She betrayed every honest refugee, because now people will look at us with more suspicion, because she proved the skeptics right." Cooper tried to push back. "But the allegations are not proven." "The evidence is overwhelming," Ahmed interrupted. "Same father name, Instagram posts, email, 6 witnesses, photos contradicting her sworn statement, refusal to take DNA test. That is not innocent behavior. Even Cooper had to acknowledge that. Sarah Mitchell came forward next. Friend of Beth Minot, watched her friend's marriage destroyed. Beth is a good person, Sarah told Fox News. She did not deserve what happened, and to no campaign funds paid for the affair. Donor money from working people. That is theft. She started her own petition. Hold Ilhan Omar accountable for campaign finance violations. That got another 100,000 signatures quickly. Conservative Legal Foundation filed formal complaints to the FBI, to DOJ, to the House Ethics Committee, to the Minnesota Attorney General, demanding investigation, demanding prosecution. The complaints were detailed, professional, citing specific laws, specific evidence, specific violations. Hard to ignore. Tom Homan gave an interview. "We are reviewing everything," he said on Fox News. "Immigration fraud is serious. If she married her brother to game the system, that is a federal crime. Statute of limitations might be an issue on some charges. But we are examining what can still be prosecuted." Reporter asked, "Could she be deported?" Homan did not smile. "If citizenship was obtained through fraud, it can be revoked. That is the law. Denaturalization is possible. And after that, yes, deportation is possible. We are looking at all options." That clip went mega viral. Millions of views. The idea that Omar could be deported. That galvanized conservatives. Enraged progressives. But the law was clear. Fraud invalidates citizenship. FBI under Bongino's leadership announced a review of the case. New evidence has come to light. We are examining what was not investigated previously. This is not political. This is about federal crimes. Even Democrats who defended Omar went quiet. Too many felonies. Too much evidence. Too politically toxic. Her fundraising collapsed. Donors pulled out. Major progressive PACs redirected money. Tech billionaires who had supported her stopped responding to calls. She had become poison. Primary challengers announced. A moderate Democrat. A Republican. Even another progressive who promised integrity and accountability. "I support progressive policies," the progressive challenger said. "But we need representatives who follow the law, who do not commit federal crimes, who do not embarrass our movement." Polls showed her favorability dropping in her own district, among her own constituents. 6 months later, Omar held a press conference. She looked exhausted, makeup perfect, but face drawn. She had aged visibly. After much consideration and consultation with my family, she read from a prepared statement. "I have decided not to seek re-election. I want to spend more time with my family and explore new opportunities outside of Congress." Translation: she was done. Politically finished. Career over. The media tried to spin it as her choice, stepping down to focus on family. But everyone knew the truth. She had been destroyed, exposed, forced out. Ahmed Hassan issued a statement. "Good, but it is not enough. She should face charges. She should be investigated. She should be held accountable. Justice requires it." Sarah Mitchell agreed. She is escaping responsibility, walking away, getting to keep her freedom. While the evidence of her crimes is public. That is not justice. That is the system failing. Conservative media declared victory. Bongino destroyed Omar's career. Squad member forced out after fraud exposure. The coverage was triumphant. But Tom Homan was not done. "Investigation continues," he said in a statement. "Just because she is leaving Congress does not mean the law does not apply. We are still examining potential charges. That investigation continues today. Files being reviewed, evidence being analyzed, prosecutors considering options. Will she be charged? Unknown. Political considerations, statute of limitations challenges, proving some allegations beyond reasonable doubt. But everyone knows what she did. Everyone knows she married her brother. Everyone knows she committed tax fraud. Everyone knows she lied under oath. Everyone knows she funneled campaign money to her affair partner. Everyone knows she came here as a refugee and repaid America by defrauding the immigration system. The evidence is public. The documents are real. The witnesses testified. The facts are facts. And history will record it all. Ilhan Omar came to America as a refugee, rose to Congress, and fell because she committed federal crimes and thought she could hide behind identity politics. She was wrong. Dan Bongino, street cop from Queens, protected presidents, made it to FBI deputy director, and used his platform to expose corruption, with evidence, with facts, with the truth. That is the story. That is what happened when Ilhan Omar tried to destroy Dan Bongino. She destroyed herself instead. Stories like this matter because politicians like Ilhan Omar count on you not knowing the facts. They count on identity politics protecting them. They count on calling investigators racist instead of answering questions. They count on the media ignoring evidence. They count on prosecutors being too scared to act. But the evidence is out there. The documents are real. The facts do not lie. If this opened your eyes to who Ilhan Omar really is, share this story. Let people know the truth. Let them see the evidence. Let them understand what she did. Drop a comment. Should she be prosecuted? Should she be deported? What do you think justice looks like here? Subscribe for more truth, more facts, more accountability. Because politicians like Omar need to be exposed. The corrupt need to be called out. The criminals need to face consequences. This is just one story. But there are plenty more politicians committing crimes. Plenty more corruption to expose. Plenty more truth to tell. See you in the next one.